it is such an honor to once again hang out with Rachel and have a discussion on her amazing book, very timely for what we're facing today in the world. And my background, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm coming from the renewable energy space, had a solar energy business way back when, and then I've been a international consultant on renewable energy and rural energy, and I happen to do the Bath masters in responsibility and business practice, which changed my life, and that's how I am associated with ASP. So I'm still, I think a part of my ADD makes me I'm an entrepreneur again, and I'm a business person, business developer. Involved in international business. Um, and always facing these ethical dilemmas on a daily basis with the kind of business that I get involved with. And my labor of love is I have a company that does mindfulness-based leadership training. I do a lot of work for the Canadian government. And speaking of Canada, today is a Truth and Reconciliation Day in Canada for honoring Indigenous people. And I'm standing here on unceded land of the Algonquin people in Ottawa. So we honor that, and I'm so happy that the Canadian government is honoring today to really make amends. You can never really make amends, but to at least acknowledge the hurts and the issues that were caused over the last 200 years of settling Canada. Right. So. What I would like to do is just to invite everybody just to settle our minds down a bit, to settle into your seats and close your eyes for a few moments and become aware of your body, become aware of the top of your head, and just go through your body and feel yourself grounded on your feet. And just focus on your breath for a few moments and feel your body expand and contract as you're breathing in and breathing out. And just picture where this breath, the beautiful breath, is coming from. It's coming from the soil, from the ocean, from the trees, and our breath goes back to nature. So there's in no uncertain terms, that we are one with nature. We are nature. So that's how I want to start this. So please spend a few more moments just reflecting on that. I invite you to open your eyes and come back down to earth now. So Rachel says the intelligent age is already here. It's uneven, accelerating, and uncertain. So this book, the beautiful book, The Intelligent Age, Field Guide to the, where is it now? Field Guide to the Experts. Yes, there we go.
To the future.
Yes, yes. So it does not offer easy answers. It invites presence, humility, and discernment. And it's a wayfinding companion for those who are charting new ground with care. So this is the kind of um, uh, process that we are doing today, to have conversations about it, because there are no easy answers to the predicaments that we have got ourselves into. And what I from reading first the Substack, and I still haven't, I'm confessing that I haven't got a hold of a book yet, but the Substack is substantial in really going through the different chapters, and I know the book itself has way more examples of for what Rachel is putting out there to validate all that. So we're here for an open discussion along these lines, and for these predicaments there are no easy answers, but the solutions really come through conversations like this, where we don't judge each other, where we come with our own opinions and own agendas, perhaps own philosophies, own ideologies, but we come with an open mind and an open heart to have a discussion around these issues and around what we can do together in a world which is dysfunctional, orgy of violence around us, the climate issues, the earth's crying out, our bodies are crying out. So how do we redirect ourselves? And this is an amazing guide, I felt. Even though I'm 66 years old, I've seen the world many times. I've been around. Um, and I'm confused at the moment. But this book gave me a little bit more hope in also realizing that the younger generation may really save humanity into the future. So I want to invite Rachel now to introduce yourself, and we'll take it from there.
Yes, thank you, Lalith, and thank you again for that mindfulness activity at the beginning. It really helps me get grounded to do this whole engagement conversation. So I'm glad we all were able to get our feet on the ground together and take some deep breaths, because this whole book really is about getting your feet on the ground, taking some deep breaths, and being present in the world as it's emerging today. I I had started a while back investigating into artificial intelligence, and then I had started diving deep into this idea of the intelligent age, and it was sparking a lot of conversations. And at the time when I decided to write this book, because I'd already written the Substack, or the time I decided to write the Substack article, more or less, and had started writing this book, was when I was staying with my in-laws in southern Italy, who are an elderly Italian couple who have lived a very agrarian lifestyle, who have really sweated their way through to build what they have in life. And I was there with my 2-year-old daughter, who has the whole world ahead of her. And I was talking with my in-laws and talking with my family in Canada and Mexico, and this whole question of what is the future for Sophia. I was talking about all of this AI and new technology and all of that, and I was getting some pushback, some fears from my in-laws about where it would be 20 years from now and how it would be so different than what they'd built and what they'd known. And they had a very fear-oriented mindset around that. And my family in Canada had a less fearful, more hopeful, but really mindful of the connection to the earth and the connection to the day-to-day activities that make us well. And so sparked me to think about this question, first of where will we be 20 years from now? Then I started looking back to what are the signals, the things that are emerging already today that give us some sense of not the answers, but the questions we should be asking. So when I say it's a wayfinding companion, this book is not an encyclopedia. It's not going to answer all your questions. It's going to give you some food for thought. But my real goal with it was just to have a basis to start conversations. So I really don't mind that Lalith hasn't read the book itself, because we've sparked conversations around it. We've had some really deep and meaningful conversations about something that I'm powerful about, that I'm passionate about. And today, that's what I hope with all of you. So I'm going to read you an excerpt from the book. This is the book. If you haven't seen it yet, that's not going to let me unfocus it. There we go. You can find it. I'll share the link later on. And also, just to mention, we're going to go until for another 45 minutes, but I'll stay on after if anyone wants to keep talking. But let me find the page that I had marked in this book with an old-fashioned bookmark. So, this is the chapter that introduces sort of the history and the how we went through the agrarian age into the industrial age into the digital age, and now we get into the intelligent age. Each era built its monuments. Each inscribed a philosophy into stone, circuit, or spreadsheet. But the intelligent age is something else. It does not announce itself with a singular invention, no roaring steam engine or click of a modem. It arrives ambiently like the weather, a subtle shift in the atmospheric pressure of existence. This is not an age of one technology, but of a new ecology, a living mesh of systems that sense, interpret, decide, and evolve. Intelligence is no longer confined to the skull. It is distributed across platforms, processes, environments, like a mycelial network beneath the forest floor. Machines generate language, negotiate logistics, diagnose disease, compose symphonies, surveil borders. Sometimes they do this well, sometimes with bias or blunder, always with consequence. This is not an industrial shift, it is a revolution in every industry, promising smarter decision-making, unprecedented creativity, and pathways to address the most pressing global challenges. Promising. This age is making a lot of promises. Trustworthy or not, it is a deep current beneath the surface of our daily lives, altering the very flow of being, perpetually poised between liberating potential and new forms of control. There are no untouched villages. The Anthropocene taught us that no forest, no glacier, no breeze escapes the reach of human action, that our collective footprint has become a geological force. The intelligent age adds another layer. No decision, no breath, no longing escapes the influence and awareness of these emerging systems. They are not merely tools. They are active participants in the unfolding of our reality, woven into the very fabric of existence, forcing us to confront how we are both shaping and being shaped by this pervasive intelligence. That's just a couple of paragraphs from the introduction, but gives you a sense of what I'm talking about with the intelligent age. So yeah, anyway, that's, by the way, if anyone has any questions throughout it, you're always welcome to throw questions in the chat. That's always welcome. Questions, comments, thoughts. I love hearing how people are reflecting. I'll pass it back to you, Lalith.
Thank you, Rachel, for reading that. And between Julia and myself, we will try to monitor the questions and the comments and then address them during the course of the presentation here. So we've got about, well, less than 45 minutes left now. So Rachel, well, I'm a parent, you're a parent, and I'm an eternal optimist. But I must say, in the last, I would say, 5 years since the pandemic, m- the other side of myself, the negative side, the pessimistic side, is constantly gnawing away at me. But I keep fighting. I keep fighting. But every time I open something, open a social media or a news, I just say, "Oh wow!" So, what gives you the optimism to do something like this?
What gives me the optimism? I think I've I think I've said this before, but I have no choice but to be optimistic because I love my daughter and I want what's best for her. And I love the people around me and I see people doing really cool things around me and I have hope in humanity, so I'm optimistic for the future. And in this book, like as I was researching, I discovered a lot of problematic trends. We see a lot of extractive models that are happening. We see the Silicon Valley, the dominance of these big tech companies. Some gaps I explore the economy and the politics and the ecology, and we see a lot of troubling streams. But we also see hope, like for example, with the ecology, we can look at AI as being something that extracts, something that draws on all of this power, something that uses all of this water. Like I heard about a country in Eastern Europe where there was a water shortage, so the citizens were being put on rationing of water so that they could keep the data centers alive. And so there's some really troublesome aspects of even just how much energy we use when we say please and thank you to a chatbot that we're on. But then there's a whole nother side of it where, for example, going back to the energy example, my husband's in the photovoltaic industry as well, the renewable energy industry, and AI is revolutionizing the management of energy because the whole infrastructure is changing if you have everybody with a solar panel or a wind turbine on their house and it's generating energy and then they're demanding energy at a different time of the day. So AI is being used to create these smart grids that essentially intelligently manage the distribution of power. It's no longer just a one-way channel from a power station to a home. Now it's going between the different homes and between communities and over short and long distances, all being managed in real time by AI. And there's other tools where it's coming in to monitor natural resources, monitor the weather, monitor, and not just monitor, but respond to and take actions towards conservation, towards new ways of living in harmony with the earth. And it can really listen and sense and analyze huge amount of data that we couldn't even hope to with the old tools that we had. So that's like in the scope of technology what I see. And I also see another aspect that gives me a lot of hope. And for me, this goes to the question of the intelligent age. When we talk about the intelligent age, we're not talking about the artificial intelligence age. we're talking about intelligence being the defining factor of this new era, and that humans are coming into a whole new level of intelligence, and human intelligence is taking on a new meaning as something creative, as wisdom, as intuition, as judgment, as instinct. All of these aspects that can't be handled by a computer, and humans are really stepping into their full potential. And there's a new type of symbiotic intelligence that comes as we interact. Like, I take this mindset, one of the original concepts I was exploring before I wrote this book was this idea of Havruta, right? This shared learning that can come out. And so the story basically, it's an old Jewish story where there was this rabbi like 3,000 years ago, and he was walking down the road and he saw a mafia boss. And I'm probably making mistakes on this story, but bear with me. So he saw this mafia boss when he was walking down the street who was so strong, and he said, "Look, you're so strong. Why don't you use that strength to study the Torah?" And the mafia boss looked at him and said, "Well, you're so handsome. Why don't you use your beauty for women?" And so this rabbi had an even more beautiful sister, apparently, who married the mafia boss, and the mafia boss and the rabbi became best friends and started studying the Torah together for, I don't know, a decade, for 20 years, and they would study and debate and talk and challenge each other. And one day the mafia boss passed away. So this rabbi started studying with his best student. And after a few months, he said, "I want to die." And the student said, "Why?" He said, "Because when I talked to my old friend, every time I made a statement, he would give me 24 reasons why I was wrong. When I tell you a statement, you give me 24 reasons why I'm right, and I want to die. No new knowledge is produced." And so for me, this is what I mean by a symbiotic intelligence with technology. We can engage with AI and on a broader level with the earth, with nature, with all of these non-human intelligences. And we can produce something that's greater than the whole of its parts, that's greater than what any technology or any natural aspect or any human could do on its own, just by working together in this really cohesive, synergetic, working together as equals, not in that whole dominative, extractive framework, but in something new. And so that's where a lot of my hope comes from. I have to be optimistic because I love my daughter, but I also see a lot of good signs around me in the world.
That's fantastic, Rachel. And I'm with you there, even though I know for all of us, the other side is tugging really strong at us. So you also track the period from the Enlightenment where we started moving away from nature and more technology that was brought in. And I guess it all started with from what we see in that Enlightenment, the technology, age of technology with Bacon, people like Bacon saying we can develop technology to subjugate nature. And then people like Descartes, I think therefore I am separating the mind and the body, has brought us to where we are right now. And the more technology we have, the more removed we are from nature. So what are your thoughts on this? Because how do we because people are enamored by technology, our lives get easier and easier with technology, but at the same time we are moving ourselves away from nature. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think there's one thought that came up that honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is I didn't even mention in the book, but it just popped into my mind right away, is the Marxist perspective of alienation, being alienated from ourselves, being alienated from each other, and being alienated from the world. And I think that we see that in each of these. We saw that in the shift to the industrial age, we saw that into the digital age, and we see that now in the intelligent age as well. One of the themes I did explore in the book was around AI companions and how people are forming these. They see something that responds to them in an empathetic way. They see something that's always available, that's listening, that's giving encouragement. Sometimes it's even expressing what might seem like emotions, depending on what the training of the AI bot is. So people form these really strong connections with something, and they start to, on one hand, it helps people who are facing loneliness. I know even me, when I was writing this book, at a certain point, it was outside of the hours when I could talk to my family in Canada. It was outside the hours when my husband or my in-laws wanted to have a conversation. My daughter could only contribute so much as a 2-year-old to a conversation. So I would sit there chatting back and forth with AI about whatever idea or question or inspiration I was having. And it was a good encouragement. In fact, I included AI in the acknowledgments of my book alongside my husband and my family and all of that. So there's a really beautiful aspect to connection that we can have, but there's something really alienated when we start to have these expectations of this sycophantic, always available, always responsive, and it starts to get into this really old school aspect of mastery and optimization and having tools and kind of treating these tools as our slave, which is really goes against what I was sharing earlier about this Havruta, about this shared learning, about this shared evolution, co-evolution, and something I want to share a bit later about sort of the post-humanist view on all of this. So that's one of the aspects that I see at place.
So
Another
absolutely. Oh,
aspect.
sorry. Go ahead. Keep
No, no,
going.
no, no. I
No,
just
no, no.
wanted to share another aspect though, which is this whole idea that the progress is not linear, right? Like it's really easy. And in the book, I kind of lay out, okay, the agrarian age, the industrial age, the information age, the digital age, now we're in the intelligent age, but it's not a linear progression. Like, for example, most of the book was edited in my home in Vipa, Canada, which is a tiny little rural village in the countryside on a hilltop. And in some ways, in many ways, in most ways, it's still in the agrarian age. People never really accepted moving beyond that. The main culture is still agriculture. Up until 20 years ago, people still didn't have electricity in their homes. They didn't have plumbing. They used the common fountain to wash their clothes. They had mules in the street. So it's really new to this whole era. But it's resisting and it's remixing. So the industrial age was never fully embraced, but people embraced tractors because they functioned. Now people are embracing WhatsApp because they can communicate with their family who emigrated out of there. People are embracing, some of them are even embracing AI into the factory process to optimize their farms to all of this. So it's a selective thing where they're selecting the parts of the new eras that work for them, but they're staying really grounded in their community values, in their seasons, in their ways of relating to each other and to themselves and to the people around them. And so it's not a linear progression. There's even the example I talked in our last call with Lalith about my mother who was living in this modern era and then decided to go and live a neo-agrarian lifestyle. She went and has her little, moved into the countryside and has her farm and lives in a sustainable way and lives connected to the earth and the seasons. So not not everything is going in that direction, right? There is this linear march of progress, and the people who are not adapting to it are resisting or are laggards or are whatever. There's that whole mindset of things, but I don't think it really reflects the messiness and complexity of how people are engaging in the world in the technology and outside of it.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. And there's still about 1 billion people on this earth who don't have access to electricity, right?
Yeah.
So we have you may call them, they are not participating in a society or the economy, but they may be our saviors, right? So I love this word power of balance, and your book brings out this notion of power of balance between technology and just emotions and nature, balance between the good and the bad. And so there's it acknowledges the paradox of the life that we live, the tensions that we have constantly, from the political, economic, and other pressures, social pressures that we have, especially in the urban world, and that's around the world, of people who are caught up in life, day-to-day realities of going to work, and the disconnect that they're also having not only with nature but with their own children too along the way. So that's that huge pressure that is there, where we're bringing continue to bring to the world uh, individuals who are separated from nature. So what are your thoughts? I mean, your book really shows some ways of dealing with it, but any thoughts on that?
Well, can I try and pull out? Can I take a moment and find something in my book to read as an answer to that?
Yes, please. Yes, please. So in the meantime, I'm also in the middle of reading 1984, Orwell's 1984 right now, and I'm the reason I haven't got into Rachel's book is I have about six books I'm reading at the moment, and 1984 is one of them. And and it's amazing how Orwell um, pictures what we may be facing today in on this earth right now, in this world right now, um, and 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 I also feel as I speak to more and more people that more and more people are waking up to the reality that we know, even though we are caught up in the day-to-day challenges of life, at in some way or another, we know inside our hearts, inside our minds, that something is not quite right. And I think that's one of the things that we need to really really latch on to and have these conversations with people, and ASP, and there are many other platforms that we're involved in right now, having these kinds of intelligent conversations and allowing people to really talk about their hopes and fears, especially too. Rachel, you look like you found it.
I did. Thank you. That was beautiful, though. Thank you for sharing, Lily. All right, this is answering sort of how we can connect to nature in that, but also how we can keep in mind the sort of political and ecological and economical aspects of what we're engaging with. So we must guide AI's emergence with intention, ensuring it uplifts both planetary health and the dignity of living beings. It cannot serve only to refine worn patterns of consumption or deepen divides in who benefits from its power. Our planet, the oldest and wisest of mentors, calls for a technology that listens and learns from its cycles, an intelligence that moves in rhythm and with renewal, weaving a respectful partnership between innovation and the living world. In tracing the contours of the intelligent technologies and their wider habitats, it becomes clear we're not simply watching a series of new innovations. We are watching the edge of a monumental transformation, one that is redrawing the map of values, governance, and life itself. The forces now emerging are not inert objects. They are powerful agents. Like wind and water over stone, they carve patterns into our systems, reshape industries, and alter the daily topographies of existence. But their paths are not set. They reveal the ground beneath them, what generates value, how collective action is structured, and the ecological limits that we have long ignored. This is the profound reciprocity. Technology is shaped by the context in which it emerges, and in turn reshapes the context. To read this terrain is to understand that we are not looking at separate maps, but one interconnected map. What technology it can accomplish is tied to political choices, which are shaped by economic systems, all nested within the Earth's web of life. To focus on one without the other is to misunderstand the signs, like a botanist studying a single leaf without acknowledging the tree, the forest, or the rain that keeps it all alive. The patterns of consumption and renewal, woven through economic systems, political structures, and ecological health, are deeply affected by these new technologies. And in turn, these technologies are molded by whether we choose paths of extraction or continuous regeneration. Oh yeah, this is, I'll come back later before we close with some of the field instructions for the intelligent age of how we can do that. But it's really my belief all through this book is that we have to understand. My hope is that people will take a moment, whether it's through this or through other channels or just in their own reflection, to understand what's emerging around us and what's emerging in the future, to look at the big picture, to look at the politics, the economy, the ecological. I also drive into the social aspect, the philosophy of it, but that will inspire us to co-create the best possible future through our actions today. And I hope that that's a regenerative future. That's a big theme here, is how we can find that balance, move away from that extractive mindset into one that goes beyond just sustainability into regeneration, right?
Mhm. And I love the way you use those metaphors of the rock and the dynamic nature of all this at the end of the day. And we are trying to hold on to, we don't like change as human beings, so we're trying to hold on to the status quo. But it also calls for, in your book, it calls for stewardship, because this changes the role, our role as human beings. We no longer can be passive participants in this. We have to become active. So there has to be active hope. but also we are no longer sole authors of this intelligence, you say. So moving away from our individualism that has created the modern techno-industrial AI complex is to really separate us as atomized individuals. And there are systems thinkers in this ASP community. So it's about understanding the web and the entire system. And how do we collaborate within this complex ecology of minds? So it requires some personal responsibility and reflection, right? So any thoughts on the work that we have to do individually to participate in this stewardship? Rachel, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think a big aspect is, yeah, well, it's good to take a moment and close your eyes and take a deep breath and be mindful. Don't walk with your eyes closed. And don't think that maybe you've created this beautiful anti-tech lifestyle where you live in a peaceful, sustainable commune farm in the middle of nowhere. I'm thinking of my mother here right now and the life that she chose, which is a beautiful thing, but she's not closing her eyes, right? So I actually wrote this book a lot for her because I wanted to help her understand a bit what was happening, because she was part of these conversations about caring for her granddaughter's future. And so yeah, I had one experience recently that really freaked me out. Uh, I like I said, I live in a small rural area in southern Italy, and my daughter has a pediatrician, and we live in Europe, so there's these GDPR rules, and there's the EU AI Act, and there's some strict regulation on some level, and essentially, we sent a message to her doctor, to her pediatrician one day, and he sent us back a copy and pasted message on WhatsApp saying we can't use WhatsApp anymore for privacy reasons. Please use this app instead. Please download it from the App Store. And so I looked at the app on the App Store and it said it was unencrypted. And then I looked a bit closer and I realized the developer was a company called AI Health. Okay, let me go and look at the privacy policy. And I look on there and I see written in plain black and white that the data of my daughter from her that she'll be communicating with her doctor about her private health information will be shared with this app that's using that to train their AI to develop other for-profit apps. And it's a genius business model. It's extremely hard to develop AI apps that are oriented towards children's health because that's extremely high risk private data, and it's really hard to get training data on that. And this company has been a genius. They've figured out a way to get salespeople out there to go to the pediatricians, to get people to sign up thinking this is a better option for their privacy in some way, shape, or form, not communicating in any of their promotional information that that's what it was being used to do. And then they can sell it off to third parties. So genius capitalist extractive business model, and my doctor sitting there telling people who have no idea even what the GDPR is, what the EUAI Act, what AI is, telling these people in a rural area, you need to use this app to communicate with me because it's better for your child's privacy. And I talked to him and I said, look, do you know what this is doing? Do you understand the risk of having of de-anonymization of data, of having your data used, of having the fact that it's being passed over an unencrypted app? He's like, no, I don't know any of that. I'm like, okay, well, I can sit you down and I can help you understand it. He's like, no, I'm not responsible for that. It's up to the parents whether they use it or not. I'm just not going to communicate on WhatsApp anymore. And so people will choose that because they have their trust in the doctor, but that doctor needs to take responsibility and understand these risks and communicate and understand, because he has a duty to his patients. And honestly, I don't place the blame on any parent, but me as a parent in this intelligent age, I'm glad that I have a basic knowledge of the risks so I can make an educated decision about whether to sign my daughter up for an app. And I hope that other parents will take that same initiative to have this basic level of literacy to be able to make educated decisions for the welfare of ourselves and the people around us and the earth when it comes time to have higher impact decisions. So I think that's the big message, is don't close your eyes. Even if you think it doesn't affect you, even if you think it's not relevant to you, you have a responsibility to yourself and the people around you, because this technology is pervasive nowadays, and you're not going to escape it, even in the most remote corners of the world, or your thoughts as we go forward. Not to be nihilistic, I don't think, like I said, I see many beautiful parts of it, but if people think they can just close their eyes and not engage with it, I don't think that's realistic.
So Rachel, do you think now we have, and we've talked about this before, a value system that is numerical based, number based, and it's not based on our health and well-being and wellness and happiness and joy. So in a society that is aligned with those economic systems with GDP, and it's just numbers based, and there's no limiting, it's infinite when it comes to numbers. So profit is infinite for a company, there's no control over that. So so do you think that has something to do with, in terms of our value systems that are now, the corporations have all the power, corporations we see are influencing the politicians, it's not, we don't have the agency and the power anymore, many of these democracies, so-called democracies that we live in. So do you think that there has to be a fundamental change in the way we look at these value systems, and our societies are founded on? And at the same time, you also said that we cannot sleepwalk anymore into life with all these things that are coming up, because for a business executive, it's profit. And I've had a limited liability company all my life, and I know what it, the privileges that I have, and what, so how do we address some of those deeper issues that are there? How can we influence the political establishments to look at different models? What are your thoughts on that?
Actually, Mitali, you're inspiring my thoughts a bit in this moment as well, something that you shared. But just in general, I think the fourth industrial revolution, or the digital era, however you want to talk about it, was all about quantitative, all about crunching numbers, all about optimization and efficiency and margins, and purely capitalistic profit margins. And one aspect that I explore in the book is about these ecosystem economics of mutuality, where we start to measure the impacts of our companies and our investments that go beyond just financial, that look at the entire world, that look at the natural world, that look at the social impact, that look at all of these different aspects, and that then are actually using AI and blockchain to ensure that there's smart contracts that track it, that's there's no way to sort of greenwash or impact wash, and that there's things that automatically go to redistribute and regenerate in the world. So that's one aspect. But I think fundamentally, when we talk about the intelligent age, we're talking about a qualitative experience, right? I mentioned that earlier about how the human experience needs to change, and that's where Mitali, you came to mind, because she'd shared about working with companies who had seen these productivity and efficiency gains by workers, and they said, okay, now I can cut down your hours, or I can cut out your role, and I can work it with a more lean staff and less hours. And these companies will fall behind, they will go out of business. They're losing out in this moment, because freeing up people from repetitive, monotonous, low skill tasks means they can start operating in a more full potential, self actualization, fully realized potential way, right? And those qualitative aspects, the intuition, the creativity, the wisdom, also that aspect of beauty and joy. And I talked with another consulting company who said, like, look, the our business, our work is going out of business, and the new business is going to be relationships, right? Being in relationships, caring, empathy, all of these very human traits are qualitative. And that's, there's another research that's coming out that's saying 95% of companies are not seeing a good positive return on investment from AI, but I don't think they're necessarily measuring the right things. What about those people who are freed up, who have a sparring partner for brainstorming, who get encouragement from AI, who are able to free up their time to focus on, like for me, I've done a lot of efficiency in the things that used to take a lot of my time, and now I devote on average 20 to 30% of my time just to have one-on-one half-hour chats with people in my network to just talk about whatever comes out of it. And what's the joy and satisfaction from that? Maybe it hasn't affected my profit margin, but it's bringing me joy and satisfaction and a regenerative approach to my day-to-day life. So for me, yeah, the best way to measure this new era is in the qualitative change in our experience and our experience on this earth.
Mhm. No, fantastic. And Tracy Weeks also has echoed your sentiments there. It's not the AI, but how the developers have chosen to use it. So if their mindset is profit, they'll use it in a certain way. But if it's responsible, making profit responsibly, so it's a mindset too, right? So Rachel, go ahead. You heard something.
I'm looking at the time and I want to save some time for questions, but I wanted to basically give away my book in the sense of I explore a lot of different things, but the last chapter is called Field Instructions for the Present Age. And these are like the key takeaways that I want everyone. It goes back to what can we do as individuals and how can we navigate this era. So if you don't mind, it's just a couple of pages, but I'd like to read that out and then we can open up for questions, just so even if nobody goes and reads my book, you all can start living as stewards and caretakers and wise people in this new era. Okay?
Super. Thank you. Go for it, Rachel.
Awesome.
And if you have questions, please put it on the chat box. And as Rachel said, I'm afraid I have to jump off in 15 minutes, but Rachel is willing to stay on and continue this amazing discussion, hopefully. Okay, go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Rachel.
All right, field instructions for the present age. We began this expedition by mapping the emerging landscapes of technology, economic systems, political structures, and ecology. We traversed the intricate terrain of machines that learn, sensing their profound influence on computation and data. We journeyed through economic currents, observing the fractures of value in the shifting sands of engagement. We navigated political geographies, charting the complex interplay of governance and influence in a digitally infused world. We then delved into the braided complexity of social structures, observing how identity and relationality are being reshaped by human and non-human actors. Finally, we explored the philosophical depths, grappling with new meanings of cognition, morality, and existence itself. Now, as we prepare to move forward, the question is clear. How do we act with intention and effectiveness in this emerging world? How do we become not just observers, but active participants, stewards of this unfolding? Instruction 1. Embrace continuous reconnaissance and learning. The intelligent age is a dynamic, living system, constantly shifting beneath our feet. Therefore, mere adaptation is not enough. The challenges and opportunities of this era demand active stewardship, rooted in ceaseless learning and profound collaboration. Commit to ongoing inquiry, like a seasoned explorer always seeking new contours on the map, new digital insights in the landscape. Engage regularly with new information, diverse perspectives, and the emergent intelligent systems themselves. Understand that this technological ecosystem, with its intelligent machines, quantum currents, and blockchain foundations, is always evolving. Treat knowledge not as a fixed destination you arrive at, but as a living process, like a river that flows and changes. Cultivate a deep curiosity for the unknown, for the emergent properties that arise when carbon and code, silicone and soil meet in unexpected ways. This means listening to the whispers of change in the economic currents, sensing the shifts in the political weather, and observing the delicate pulse of the ecological cycles, allowing the landscape itself to be your primary teacher, a constant source of wisdom. Instruction 2. Cultivate navigational capacities with care. Our compass in this new world is not solely technical expertise, but a deeper relational wisdom. Embrace co-creation as a shared process, understanding that the most profound insights often bloom from collaborative ground, from biological ingenuity amplified by intelligent systems. Approach complexity not with a desire to tame it, but with critical discernment that integrates multiple forms of intelligence, both biological and non-biological. Cultivate emotional awareness that deepens connections and trust, recognizing that our porous identities are shaped by all our relationships, both within and beyond our species. This means acknowledging the nuanced role of intelligent companions. They offer solace, but authentic emotional nourishment flows from genuine reciprocal bonds. Practice ethical discernment to ensure actions support justice and care within the system, always remembering that intelligence is never neutral. Every algorithm, every data set carries values and assumptions etched by the hands of its creators. We must ask, how can we design for collective flourishing, not just isolated efficiency? How can we tend the garden of digital development with an eye for equity and ecological integrity, preventing the silent spread of systemic imbalance? So I'm going to leave the last three. Practice ecological stewardship in every domain, engage in collective co-creation as a living system, and uphold a care-centered ethic in action. But if anyone wants to read those, you can also find them on my Substack, just so you know. So the field instructions are on there in a shorter form on my Intelligent Age Substack, if anyone's interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. So, Rachel, would you like to field a couple of questions from the audience? I know, Simon, thank you for the links that you put there, and Julia also. Oh, yeah, Julia has put the Substack link to on the on the on the chat. Anybody have any comments or questions that you want to voice?
Please turn your mics on. I want to hear from all of you.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
I wanted to just share something because listening to everything you said, which I think is wonderful and quite a total inspiration to me, I've gone through a process of living in the world for 67 years, having very devastating things happen. And because of that, making the choice to almost bring myself up again. I'm a therapist anyway. That's, it's kind of, but, oh, that's my thread now. I know what it was, something that has really inspired me, which I wanted to share with you about what I see in the present world. There are some amazing, and I will call them neurodivergent, which is not to disparage them in any way. I think it's a great gift. I see Greta Thunberg, an angry young woman. The label is autism. But the thing is, what that offers to the world is an incredibly focused intelligence. And I see that in her trying to reap positive change. I see it in Chris Packham, who to me is the torchbearer for the next generation. I was worried about David Attenborough being nearly 100. Now I see Chris Packham. He's there ready with this incredible mind, so passionate. And it's a great inspiration. And the one who goes back a bit further, but actually did incredible things for the UK, Alan Turing, if anybody knows him, who was the code breaker. I watched the film again, or part of it recently. He found it very difficult to relate to the people in his immediate environment, but he made the moral choice. And I think this was an act of incredible courage to say to one of those people in his circle, I'm afraid we are going to have to let this group of people be at risk from being destroyed by the Germans because we cannot give away our secret. If we do that now, we lose the war. And he made that moral decision. Now, people were reacting to him badly because he found it so difficult to communicate to the people immediately around him. But what an incredible moral decision he had the courage to make. So to me, that says so many things. It says things about neurodivergence, which may have been in the past judged. What an incredible gift, actually, in this circumstance. All those three people, what they are giving to the world, and that incredible discernment that comes with that focus. So, yeah, I just put it out there. I find it so inspiring.
Totally. Totally. Another reflection on intelligence in this new era. Beautiful. Anyone else want to open up their mics?
I just wanted to say, not kind of like too much, but there was a couple of things that really stood out for me, which was like, I wrote them down, but one of them was about whether we choose paths of kind of extraction or regeneration. I think that's such an important, kind of sort of thread to really sort of mull over as we go forward in the world. And then also I loved what you said towards the end there. How can we design for collective flourishing? I think it was flourishing and not nourishing, but whichever term you used. I thought that was really brilliant. So I think something like that, like I haven't read the book yet, but it's, you know, this is definitely making me want to kind of delve right into it, and definitely on your Substack as well. But yeah, I just love that kind of notion of collective flourishing going forward.
I think we can make it happen. Like, that's the optimism. I think there's this huge hunger in the world right now for a regenerative future, for flourishing, not just of humans, but of the world and everything around us. And I think that, yeah, that's exactly what's happening in this new era, is that the extractive mode isn't going to function anymore and something new is going to be reborn. And that's my hope, at least. Kathleen, you're taking your mic off for a sec? Put your mic on for a sec.
I just wanted to say, people mentioned it earlier in the chat. Apart from the beautiful ideas that you put through, I think another thing that really stands out for me is how beautifully you put it to words. I think you have a voice that's lyrical and reflective and very inspiring. And it's a rare gift to write about something this complex with such clarity and beauty. And I wanted to thank you for that, because I think that's one of the things that makes me want to read books, is how well people choose their words and their images and the metaphors and the pictures that capture the ideas. And I think that's one thing that makes it really relatable, because I think your voice exemplifies your stance as well towards humanity and the information that you're dealing with, and how it's there for interpreting, and it's beautiful. I also wanted to ask if there's anybody else you'd like to recommend for us to read. I find it hard to find topics that are not too dry, or sort of too. So there's a lot of self-help books, there's a lot of philosophical books, but I think what you capture is a rare combination of beautiful and soulful and really deeply researched. So maybe if you can give us some recommendations for further reading as well.
I definitely second what John was saying in the chat there about breeding sweetgrass. I think that that's a wonderful book if you want to get into the wisdom of regenerative thinking and that way of being in the world. And it's written in a really approachable way that you can sit down in your garden and read through it without getting overwhelmed and really get into the energy of it. Personally, as far as the intelligent age, there's a lot of people talking about AI. The intelligent age has some writing on it around the World Economic Forum and some technical reports and reports from big consulting companies, but I don't really find any. Like, I kind of wrote this book just because I wasn't finding anyone to talk about this stuff with. I didn't have anything to read, so I wrote it so I have something to read. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, if you find anyone who's writing about this intelligent age or similar concepts, please let me know, because I would love to read them. And it's something that I want to have more and more reflections on going forward. So yeah. Oh, ciao, Tracy. Thank you.
Thank you. So I also just want to say thank you for this opportunity, Rachel, because I got to jump off. You have said it's not about control, but choreography. It's not about mastery, but stewardship. It's not from top down, but collaborating amongst each other. So this was a wonderful opportunity for us again to get together. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for coming today, everybody. Really appreciated it. I enjoyed the session. So we'll see you again.